Wanna know where is my tool bucket? Who took it from me? Broke into my house that night and stole from me. Using up blowtorch is quite insanity. Then got a rock and threw it through the window, the back door window. Snuck into the house, that foolish bucket foe. Took it to the pawn shop to get money. Need your hands here now. Hey dude man, coolest thing around. My show now, you're my hands right now. This is Adam Sheffield. Welcome to American Heritage Center Radio, home of the Property Therapy and Talent Development Program.
Okay, so welcome to the Property Therapy Show, and it's the coming up to the new year, and we want to wish everybody a happy new year, and we are going to run down a review from what we've covered with you, beloved listeners, and all this year, run through this recap from this year, what we've gone over. And we have some breaking news, which will regarding the election and the fraud detection. And one of our radio listeners is Mike Stallman, and he's an amateur archaeologist who met a professional archaeologist, scientist, and a man by the name of Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. And he's going to tell us about what he has heard regarding the Trump diagnostic on the balloting, the fraudulent allegations. So it's good to have you on the show, Mike.
Well, thank you for having me. As you mentioned, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer is among other things, is an archaeologist. He's also the man that invented the Q code.
And the Q code is the code for those that aren't involved in the internet. It's a way of like a barcode for websites.
It's like a 3-dimensional barcode
that you see everywhere. That your phone can take a picture of a Q code, like a barcode, and then it'll send you to a website.
Yeah, it's like a computer version of a web link.
So this guy is he's world famous, and he has a very incisive mind.
He has hundreds of patents. A lot of them are in the information field. If you have a cell phone of any type, of any description, on any carrier, you're using a device that is running probably a dozen different licensed patents that he's licensed to various telecommunications companies. You cannot be using a cell phone without using one of his inventions or patents. But he noticed on election night on the news coverage that they were showing stacks and stacks of supposed mail-in ballots that obviously weren't creased. You can't mail in a mail-out-in ballot without folding it and sticking it in an envelope. So that gave them the idea that they could be examined forensically to see if they were authentic ballots or not. And he has 7 or 8 different things that he can check, including where the paper was made, where the ink was made, whether the pen mark where you fill in the circle to make your selection, he can tell whether that was done by hand, by a computer, by a robot.
Let's listen to Jovan Hutton Pulitzer talking. Here he is.
Well, did you know from a forensic level that you can tell absolutely the difference between paper here in the United States or paper that was made in China? There's different formulations, different inks, even different fibers. And on our systems, we're able to tell every one of these. But the bottom line is really simple. Regardless of the side you're on, this is no longer about the president. This is no longer about parties. This is only about you as a citizen. Will your vote count going forward?
Pulitzer, who created QR code Scan to Connect and helped pioneer fixed dial-up internet, switched gears after election night. He says when he saw the ballot counts spike for Biden on election night, he heard of witnesses testifying about masses of mail-in ballots with no folds. He was moved to create technology to check the authenticity of a ballot using a forensic scan. Checking the folds is part of the forensic inspection. Pulitzer explains the technology can also detect the kind of ink used to mark the ballot.
All of these have unique IDs, but the one that was done by a machine, because their printing dynamics are completely different, sticks out like a sore thumb. Here is a fake squiggle by a computer. Even though they could try to come up with fake squiggles by a computer, the one on the right, you still see the artifacts left over by it being a simple printing mechanism. All of these can be easily decoded.
He says he's working with litigators to potentially do these forensic scans in many of the contested states where some suspect fraudulent ballots were counted. But the first step will be right here in Georgia.
So we're hoping to get this done Tuesday or Wednesday, unless we get blocked by either the county or the court.
And Favorito says if the court dismisses the case, they are prepared to take it all the way up to the highest court.
So there it is, and this is very important to find the authenticity of the voting process. Mm-hmm. And
so faith can be restored.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So this would be a property therapy issue, right? To identify the authenticity of the property involved, and we talked about on the program with John Hychek, mm-hmm. and he's a world's foremost private individual collector of early American artifacts, Book of Mormon, especially restoration artifacts, and this is the same kind of property therapy issue out there. Mm-hmm. And for those that have just tuned in, this is the Property Therapy Show. We're on 102.9 FM and 1140 AM, and then on 104.7 FM. And the property therapy is where you take care of the property, and then it takes care of you. So in this case, it's a process that occurs, property therapy. And so you have here is the property involved. And so this directly affects what we talk about on the show and in law school. This would be the police power over property. The police power is the right of the community to control the property, the government to control the property. And then whoever's in power and control of the government determines what are the rules over property, whether it's socialistic, whether it's more private-oriented, historically connected with our heritage, where we come from as a nation, and so this directly affects property, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Who won the elections, and so it's important though that we establish objective standards, like what we were talking about, Mike, on how we diagnose whether a ballot's been is authentic or not, because they were going through the signatures, like a signature matching, which is a subjective standard. But here we have a more objective diagnostic, and I'm glad that you're bringing this to our attention, Mike.
No, I'm just very glad that it appears that finally somebody's going to actually look at the ballots, as you said, in an objective way, with criteria that can be spelled out, and just see, okay, are they real or are they fake? And then we'll know one way or another. It's important going forward for us to know, exactly, does our votes actually count?
And like what we were talking about before with under Bush v. Gore, when they stopped the recounting, the court ordered the stopping of the recounting because they weren't being equal on the standards that they were using in Florida. So the court put a quash on it. But even after that, they still recounted, didn't they? Mm-hmm. And Bush won anyway by 500 and something votes, right? And so,
yes.
So they're going to take it to the court. But understand this: even if the court quashes it, they're still going to do it. They're still going to subject it to this analysis. And do you think there will be any, if this is not legitimate, if these are not authentic results, do you think there will be any closure?
Because this is the kind of issue that's going to affect the morale of the voters in the future. You know, we talk about the morale of the property therapists. How about the morale of the voters in the entire country?
Exactly. So this is definitely a property therapy issue, and that we've discussed on the show, and the property therapy. So this year, we have now our first property therapy bookmark. just to give an update. On this program, the Property Therapy program, we have now our first brochure, which comes with the Property Therapy Angel t-shirts that we have now in the gift shop. Help us stay on the air, help keep the lights on at the American Heritage Center. Buy yourself a Property Therapy Angel t-shirt. And the t-shirts say, why seek ye the living among the dead? This property has arisen. And it has an angel sitting on a rock. And the angel has a tool belt around the waist of the angel. And the angel, and then it says Property Therapy Angel on top. And the rock's been rolled away, not from a tomb, but this one is from a house. And so we want to see people, and that's what this show's all about, is motivating people to go get their properties and take care of their properties, and it takes care of them, and they don't necessarily need to have the government prop up, right? And because they've got the inner government, right? And then, so we've talked about this year on the show about how I grew up I graduated from an inner city high school, and they were pumping all the money into the public school systems for the desegregation order, and we had a magnificent time, and we had people, they were busing in people from all over the metro area, and even from the world. We had a person in our orchestra from Germany. We had someone from Switzerland, and from all around. They were busting people in, and they're pumping lots of money into the school system, but after the money stopped, it just went, and the school system in Kansas City just lost its accreditation. Paseo Academy, that's where I graduated from, was the only school, and Lincoln Academy were the only two schools that kept their accreditation. And it's not the government; it's the inner government that makes you succeed. The city. So I'm so proud of Paseo Academy for staying, being that light on the hill. And it's the high school on top of the hill when you go into Kansas City, Paseo Academy. And but we want to see people get that inner government, get that charge of the faith orientation on with that. And so we've talked about the importance of faith orientation in the episode with Dr. Nick. And that's the faith orientation. He's the director and the dean and founder of Faith Bible College. That began here in Kansas City on that episode with Dr. Nick, and they found the Faith Bible College is now hundreds of locations all over the world and the United States. So we've talked about that and we're just recapping the show. What we covered, Dr. Nick was we talked with him about the importance to be fully educated. You have to have a faith orientation because that's the center of the philosophy is the center between art and science, right? Yeah. And we talked about that, the truth taxonomy libraries that we cover here at the Heritage Center, and when we're going on our national tour across the United States, we're going to be talking about that truth taxonomy system, which is art, or on the left-hand side, is science, which is objective truth, and then you have on the right-hand side, you have art, which is subjective truth, and the middle ground between art and science is philosophy. And religion is a branch of philosophy. It's called the divine command theory of philosophy. And so so you want to have a faith orientation in your life, and that's part of being a fully educated person. And then it ties into the show because we've noticed people that have faith orientations have a more purpose-driven existence, right? Yeah. And they take better care of property, including their body property, and they inspire others in their lives. So we covered that this year with the faith orientation episode with Dr. Nick. He's the spiritual entrepreneur. We covered the show about with John Hychek. He's the world's foremost collector of artifacts and books in American restoration genre especially, and he has 250,000 artifacts stored in the caves. So we got Dr. Nick, we had John Hychek, and then we had the episode on regarding Nick Marshall.
Yeah, first high quality HD episode. I remember I get the mic set up for that one. That was a good sounding show.
And we covered with Nick Marshall the goodwill valuation, right? Yeah. And goodwill valuation is the metric that affects the value of property. And so he's a professional musician and singer. He's got a dynamite voice and guitar.
And,
beautiful.
Twins were born, and they're I think 2 or 3 months old now, and they're doing really well.
And so we talked about intellectual property with him in that episode. And no matter where you're at, you've got property that you're involved with. Even people that are homeless have property, right? Personal property. And we talked with Nick about intellectual property with the songs. But regarding the homeless people, then we covered on that episode. It was with Pastor C.
Yeah,
Pastor C at the Unity Center
last week.
That's regarding the homeless. And so what we covered with the homeless people, we talked about with the Beloved. That's their term of art they use at the Unity Center. The Beloved. It's a beautiful term. And we've talked about them about the importance of having some kind of harbor for them to store their license and their social security cards or things, something like that, so that they can, or some bins or something that helps them get traction in their life, if they can have some kind of stability. And that's important as part of property therapy, right? Is that that's one of the flowback benefits of property therapy, is that you get a talent harbor, right? If you have a safe harbor for yourself and you have something that helps you get traction, it helps you get a safety and helps you get stability in your life.
Yeah, in a civilized society that's so overrun with fraud right now, we even look at the election. You have to be able to identify yourself. You need that state ID, that driver's license, that social security card. That's vital to getting back on your feet, getting a job, a bank account.
It's important, yeah, because we've had mail-in ballotings to a limited extent, but it was primarily for overseas soldiers and people that were out of the state. We've never had it to this extent for people that are living, that are there already there in the state themselves. And so it's a natural thing to want to review the process of what occurred, because this is unprecedented. We never had a third of the ballots cast be mail-in ballots.
Yeah,
I
don't think the checks and balances are there to to detect any kind of fraud that would occur.
And this is very important in the rules of evidence in the law. Is one of the things that they teach is that if a party is seen to obfuscate or deny the court to have access to the evidence, the court will interpret that evidence against the obfuscator. Okay, so it will be if they're deemed to find any tampering, or if they try to deny the people access to these ballots, then the court, it's a standard rule of evidence that they will deem the obfuscator, whoever's the obfuscator, it will be deemed, even if the evidence if it's destroyed, it will be deemed as malignant against whoever's the obfuscator.
I do the same thing with my kids when they've got something behind their back and they're trying to sneak across the room, do that little sidestep, and they've got something. Hey, what do you got behind your back there, buddy? What are you hiding?
So we have here. Okay, so this is we've talked about John Hychek, Dr. Nick Marshall, and then we had Nick Marshall's dad,
Conga Jim.
So we talked about with Conga Jim was his dad, and he talked about his business property.
Running a business. And he's a former landlord himself, and now he's retired and just is able to focus his time to get his property therapy on the conga drums and learn a new skill, even in retirement, and go out and play with his son.
And because of the
how
property,
cool is that?
Absolutely, he plays in many shows. How many shows a year? Hundreds.
Before this year, it was all the time. Usually 2 or 3 a week.
And that comes from having property in his life, and it helped him realize his dreams and solidified his relationship with his family.
And just how much fun is it to get out and be able to perform in front of a crowd with your son, being the star of the band, the singer, the guitar player, and there you are, the proud dad just sitting beside, participating by playing the drums and just soaking it all in.
And we have
watch your son,
and that
perform.
feeds into the logo of the show. It has the property therapy, the violin gavel, as the gavel symbolizes the property therapy, and then the violin is realizing your dreams. And for him, it would be the conga would be here, it'd be right by the violin gavel. And then we had family the importance of family also flowed into Claudia, the episode with Jamaican Claudia, the property therapy equality. And she built her first house when she was 17 years old.
Impressive.
In Jamaica. Impressive. And we're not just talking about fixing the roof. No, we're talking about from the ground up, from the below the foundation, pouring the footings. And then in Jamaica, she told us that they
start with the design.
She designed it in her computer, and then she told us about in Jamaica how they build houses for hurricanes. They don't just build these
no stick frames.
No stick frames.
Concrete.
No concrete. They go concrete all the way up to the roof line. And she says you can drive cars through houses here in the United States, but you can't drive through houses in Jamaica. So that was the episode in Property Therapy Equality. She now owns her own roofing, siding, and gutters company. So we talked about property therapy not being just for the guys. So that's we've covered with Claudia. And what was some of the other episodes we had?
Property Defenders, Dr. Di and Sheila.
Dr. Di and Sheila.
Talking about they got kids. We got kids, 2 of them in every window.
Yeah, so so we covered with Dr. Di and Sheila about the Property Therapy Network.
And get to know your neighbors and get your driveways lit up with motion lights or whatever might help you identify thieves or burglars coming to steal your property on your property.
Right.
Get those motion lights going, get those floodlights out there, get your cameras, your notifications on your cell phone. It's a hands-on process. You can't, the police are going to show up after you call them, hopefully, but you're the one that's there right now, and you need to take whatever steps you need to take to be able to defend yourself and then know what your rights are.
And Sheila's ordered 2 T-shirts, Property Therapy Angel T-shirts. So we're going to deliver. She wanted pink and I think composite gray or a darker one. So we're going to get her Property Therapy Angel T-shirt.
We're going to need to get those kids outfitted too so they can all help defend the property in the windows. Got 2 in every window, man. We've got 24 T-shirts right there.
Call us to get your Property Therapy Angel T-shirt, 816-674-3035. Again, 816-674-3035. And those are the Property Therapy Angel T-shirts. And they have, for those that have just tuned in, it's the Property Therapy Angel, and he has a tool belt around his waist. And he's sitting on a round rock, big, huge rock that's been rolled away, not from a tomb, but from a house. And he says to the women in front of him on the T-shirt, he says, "Why seek ye the living among the dead? This property has arisen." So we've got Property Therapy Angel T-shirts in all sorts of colors, and we ordered a lot of them in darker colors because it won't show dirt, so you can do your property therapy projects here and inspire others and really have a legacy in your life, in your family. So we covered the high check with the authenticity. We talked about property authenticity with him. Dr. Nick's spiritual orientation. Dr. Nick Marshall. We covered intellectual property. With Pastor C, we talked about homeless property harbors. And with Claudia, Property Therapy Equality. Dr. Di, the Property Therapy Networks. And then we had the gun safety instructor. Bruce Luderman.
Yeah.
And yes, and he
former police officer, many years experience.
20, 30 years.
And now instructing firearms safety.
So we talked about with Bruce defensive property. Now, and with property therapy, there's you take care of the property and the property takes care of you. So on the property therapy brochure that we have, come get to the Heritage Center to get your property therapy brochure, and it will come with your T-shirt, the brochure. And this is the first T-shirt in history that comes with a brochure with an instruction manual for your T-shirt. And so, but on the property therapy, the issues the property has are both negative and positive issues. For positive property issues that you have to address in property therapy would be like, how are you going to realize your dreams? How are you going to obtain the property? How are you going to define this property? In this case, with how are you going to authenticate the property, right? That would be in the case for the election with Mike Stallman called about here. And so, but the negative property issues that we talk about on the show would be like break-ins or thefts or mob violence. Mob violence is the most extreme negative issue out there, property therapy issue out there. And then break-ins and thefts, and then acts of God. And we say that break-ins and thefts are more negative even than acts of God because it just dehumanizes you. Yeah, and that's what the property therapy issue we deal with in the opening song that I wrote. The want to know where's your tool bucket? Where's my tool bucket? Based on who's someone broken into my rental house and stole my beloved tool bucket.
True story. That's all the lyrics from that opening theme is a true story.
And then on the other negative property issues that we talked about is break-ins, acts of God, break-ins and theft, and then maintenance issues, right? And then we define them, distinguish between positive and negative issues, where permissive and mandatory maintenance issues. So we're setting here the legal rules. I'm like a judge setting the rules of the definitions of the property therapy. But the mandatory permissive maintenance issues. Permissive issues are like maintenance issues that occurred. They didn't have to occur, but you let them occur, like a dog urinating.
Like pets,
or pets. I don't want to discriminate against dogs versus cats, but say pets urinating on the carpet. You said that would be a permissive maintenance issue versus a mandatory negative maintenance issue would be
more of an act of God, or
act of God, or it's
just regular.
It would be like the roof leaking,
the furnace wears out.
The furnace wears out. It's
pipes leak.
Yeah, because of age, it's a mandatory maintenance. It's going to happen.
Foundation. Yeah,
it's going to happen
expected
because
maintenance.
Exactly. It would be expected. So it's a mandatory maintenance issue because of age, because we live in a mortal world. And things
crumbling around
die, right? This is which is an argument against or for intelligent design, that things don't upgrade over time. I wish they did, John.
Yeah.
I wish property you would get there and every day it would be like the Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpelstiltskin.
Or it'd be like the Borg on Star Trek. They're just always
every day.
AI is always. The next episode you see them in, they were always bigger and better and badder. Coming after Luke Picard.
And Rumpelstiltskin every day the Rumpelstiltskin gets younger. It'd be nice if you had 100-year-old house and every year the roof gets newer and newer. But no. So these are property therapy issues. So if you address these issues, and this is issues not just, we're talking personal property, but also intellectual property and reputational value and body
goodwill.
property.
We need to keep up the goodwill value for the makers of the voting machines.
Exactly. The goodwill valuation.
The Dominion's voting system
exactly.
Its goodwill is being questioned.
It's being questioned.
Is it good? Is it bad? Is it fraudulent?
And
is it controlled by the Chinese?
Exactly. So
we need to know.
Exactly. So the valuation of property is a positive issue, right? And so that would be one of the issues that's out. So we've talked about with gun safety instructor, and that would be the defensive property, right?
Yeah.
To defend your body property. And
Dr. Dye is a fan of Frontier Justice. Should get them as a sponsor.
And then we had the episode with Edward Glazer about solar energy.
Oh, yeah, I love that. That's very interesting.
Love it. Yeah, and so
how to generate your own electricity with the solar panels and how it's becoming more efficient. And there's still a long ways to go where it can become more efficient. And if you need batteries or not, or can you just use the electric grid as your battery? And are you ever going to get a check in the mail from the power company, or do you just get your electricity back? So all those questions were answered on the Edward Glazer Solar Energy Show. These are all episodes that you can find on all your major podcasts now: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and for right now, they're all on YouTube, where you can usually see like a slideshow as our background, but it's not quite the most efficient way to deliver audio. So we've gone to podcasting and to add to the radio broadcast, and we will still be using the YouTube channel for a lot of our videos, just little short specialty videos.
Just Google Property Therapy and
comes right up now. Spotify, just any of your favorite podcasts, any major distributor, just Property Therapy Show, and it'll come right up at Google.
And with Edward Glazer, we talked about with him on solar energy about capturing wild property and turning property into
photons.
Yeah, turning the sun rays into property for yourself
and saving yourself a lot of money in the process.
Right.
So yeah, definitely, it's Ampray, AMPRAY.com. We'll give him a little plug for his solar energy company right here in Kansas City.
And then, okay, so in addition to capturing the sun rays, turning property into the sun rays, and we also had covered with Bernie Freed, and we had an episode on Judaism and property therapy. He was the former director of Beth Shalom, the largest conservative Jewish synagogue in Kansas City. And he's very much inspiring speaker. And we talked about how his having stewardship and directorship of Beth Shalom helped him to develop his intellectual property. In this case, his sermonettes based on the Talmud and the scriptures, really inspiring things.
He spoke about some management issues and some security. He had some really impressive security there when you visited this place.
It's like a triple door network.
They take it very, very seriously. It's always nice to see something well done and see how well something can be done, so you can copy it.
And so I then I played my violin on that episode. I played the Bach Gavat, which is a piece that Tiberius Klausner taught me. And it was Tiberius Klausner was a mutual friend that we knew for decades. And he was my first real violin teacher that I had. He was the concertmaster of the Kansas City Symphony. And
which you talk about in your first radio interview.
Right. Yeah. And so in that episode, that was the 20 years ago radio show, and then we played the first radio show that I ever did was 20 years ago, and it was a story that I did for KCUR FM, and it was on the departing conductor of the Kansas City Symphony, Maestro William McLaughlin, and then we had on that show, in addition to that, we had Jeff Foley was also the 20 years ago tied in to Jeff Foley as well. And we talked with him about his property therapy tours that been doing for 20 years.
Former mayor of Chillicothe.
Two-term mayor of Chillicothe. And he has been giving property tours and faith orientation tours from the Mormon history tours from the perspectives of the mobs and the locals.
Talking about getting the county cannon stolen.
Yeah. He talked about that, about how Joseph Smith stole the cannon and how it was like kicking the hornet's nest.
I wonder if they ever used it. Did they ever get any?
Not to my knowledge.
Was it any purpose to it?
It was certainly the mobs and the locals used it to get them as fodder.
Made a statement, definitely.
Yeah. So that was his perspective is very unique. Mormon history tours from the perspective of the locals and the mobs. So we covered Dr. Jeff Foley, and he has his doctorate in theology from Faith Bible College. He was just awarded. So
everything ties in together somehow.
It ties into Dr. Nick and Faith Bible College.
One big web.
Yeah. So in addition to Jeff Foley, Dr. Jeff Foley, we had an episode, a History Alive episode with Harriet Tubman. And that was really exciting. And Harriet Tubman, the character Harriet Tubman was played by Tasha Turner.
We got good feedback on that episode. People learned some history.
And to Harriet Tubman, of course, she's the Underground Railroad fame woman who led the slaves. And she lived in a time when persons were considered property. So there was a lot of property therapy issues going on there. And we're going to bring Harriet Tubman alive again on the stage. We're going to do some skit for Black History Month here at the American Heritage Center. And Tasha Turner is going to recap her role in live in the skit. So we're going to make YouTube videos out of that, and we're going to play them on the radio show here. And so the History Live, and that's one of the efforts and the motivational aspects of this radio show, because you can motivate people by music. And I wrote all the music to the show, and you can motivate people through humor, through jokes, through puppets. And Bowie here, Bowie's been sitting quiet. How's it going, guys? Bowie, we've just been telling a recap, and he's just been here quiet. He's the mascot of our radio show.
He's all over our YouTube page.
Yeah, he's all over, and
he's got some upcoming videos with him in action.
Yeah, he's the Bowerbird, and so he's very much into property therapy, because Bowerbirds are famous property therapists, and they learn property therapy skills, and he's all about. He had some important questions for Dr. Nick on whether he could build some nests on the roof of
the solar panels.
And Glazer,
trying to get the dimensions on the solar panels, and if he could inhabit underneath the panels,
whether that would be temperature appropriate.
Might be cooking his offspring there. And
call us to get your Property Therapy Angel T-shirt. You're going to love it. I guarantee it. You'll inspire yourself and others. Call me at 816-674-3035. The shirts start at $40 a piece for small, medium, and large. And then they go up. We have double X, triple X, and 4X. And the 4X are $50, and it's from 40, so it goes from 40 to 50 for double X, 3X, and 4X. And those 4X shirts are so big you can use them for night shirts. Girls can use them for night shirts. They're so big, and we have them in all colors: black, gray, sparkle red, pink.
You can see the
light pink
design on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Property Therapy Show on Facebook. Get on
Blue, green. We got like 10, 12 different colors and all sizes. So we've had all these episodes, and we had the issue of where you and I did the issue with
I think we just talked about acquiring your first rental property. We did a little bit of that, and
where we came from.
How do we acquire our skills? Because that's a big question. For someone just starting out, well, how do you get started? How do you get your skill? How do you get that first rental property to get your traction in life?
Exactly, and so this goes into our property therapy brochure that we have at the Heritage Center of the process of talent development that we've talked on the show. There's 4 steps to acquiring talent. They taught this in law school. Is that is the first step's you're ignorant that you're even ignorant, and then the next step is at least now you know you're ignorant, and then the third step's you know, and the fourth step's you know without even thinking about it. And so we talk about this in the brochure, and how Mozart, when he considered himself never really learning a piece until he had forgotten it, and then had to relearn it again. So right there, he hadn't yet know without thinking about it. So he hadn't achieved the fourth step on these pieces, because Mozart was such an intuitive talent. He had a photographic memory, so he knew that he knew it, because with a photographic memory, but he didn't take it to the fourth step of knowing without thinking about it. Because it takes time to really get it in your blood so much that you do it without breathing. It's like breathing. Right? So that's the first steps of talent development is, first, you're ignorant that you're ignorant. You didn't even know that you don't know. You didn't even know it. And so that's what with property therapy is like, when you weren't even aware that certain like solar panel systems even existed.
It's like when your spark plugs go bad. They get so bad you don't even remember how well your car ran with good spark plugs until you change them.
Yeah, so you were ignorant that you're ignorant, and then but we talk about that, the process of talent development on the radio show. So it's the Property Therapy and Talent Development Show, and so we also, in addition to the solar panel, Bruce Luderman, firearms instructor, we did also a really popular episode on Latino and Hispanic tribute, right?
Yeah.
And the Latinos in are some of the most influential property therapists in our country today.
Talented culture. I mean, it's
very much so.
It's like they're born with it.
It's in their
blood.
Solid family units that really help the structure. Structure in their lives.
I mean, can't you just look at people and just, hey, whatever they're doing right, let's do more of that.
There's in our culture,
every culture has things they're doing right. I mean, just take the best things from every culture. What are they doing right, and how's it working for them, and how can we make that work for everybody else?
Exactly. And there's so much, like in the our culture today in the United States, there's just some messiness and just trashy culture going on. But then you go to a Mexican restaurant and you see the Mexican families there, or you work with them at the property therapy projects or things, and it's just like, this is just a relief to be around the earnestness, the hunger for enterprise, the hunger to get ahead, to help realize your dreams, to realize the American dream. That, to me, it's just, I want to be around that, and that's why I'm going to Mexico.
You don't want to be around the group that's just has their head buried in their phone.
Exactly.
And won't even acknowledge your presence. You want to see people working hard, people who are good at their job, so you can learn how to do those kinds of things.
Bowie Bird likes to hang around people like that.
This is how you make your life matter, is when you get the skills to help yourself, you can help others. You get to develop your other talents because you collect talents as you go.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so, all right, so part of that recapturing, and then so we did an episode on recapturing your property therapy skills with Street Minister Tony and Jim Motka. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yep.
And so Jim Motka's staying on track.
Yeah, he's living across town right now, and last I'd heard he was in line to get a job at a bakery, and was looking forward to it, and it sounded pretty good. They gave him a tour of the entire facility, and he was really hoping to get on there. So keep Jim in your prayers, and hope he can stay on the right path. And he wants to. He was so impressed by us and what we were doing. He's like, "Hey, man, I want to." So you're just one of our brothers, man. You can get out there and do the same thing we're doing. Once you get your traction in life and get your life on track,
right? And that's property therapy. It
have some direction.
It's one of the benefits, right there. Helps you overcome personal challenges, any addictions, health issues, and then that bleeds into the better health. Was also a episode that we interviewed the former Amish man, and we had him on the show. And the Amish people are known as some of the most legendary property therapists in our country's history. They're so active, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Hard workers and doing a lot of things the hard way and having just incredible results.
And so we
talked about quality in their projects and things that they build.
And so that we talked with him about the flowback health benefits that the Amish people have later on in life, the unparalleled health. When they get older, they have this vibrant health. And so that's a huge body property issue. And the body property is your body is your property. Mm-hmm. And so we don't legally define you can't be someone else's property legally. And so we discussed that issue, but in the Harriet Tubman episode, and so we've covered around the world. We've covered so much things here, and then we interviewed. So that was with the body property, and then we talked with U.S. presidential candidate Denise Diaz. He was the first Puerto Rican presidential candidate in American history, Denise Diaz. And we talked about he had
an incredible story. And the things he was doing with the
sex
trafficking. And he was actually out there on the streets doing it. So it's almost a good thing that he didn't get elected, because now he can really focus on I'm sure he's making a big difference in those people's lives. And
so he's reaffirming our American heritage that you're no one else's property. Mm-hmm. In sex trafficking, they say, nah, we want to go back in history 100 years, so that these pimps, they say they're my property. You're mine. You're mine. Make me my money. Yeah, but that's not how it works.
That's not legal. Much arguing of the problems of the past that cannot be solved today. But he's out there actually solving real world problems of today. So very impressive man.
So he's where the rubber meets the road with the sex trafficking commission and his work that he's doing, and that bleeds into our episode also where my father. But he also did his faith orientation ministry for 20, 30 years out on the streets where the rubber meets the roads. A prophet of the streets, sharing the bookmark of powerful quotations. Call me to get yours. I guarantee it'll change your life. I had professors tell me this is the most morally potent collection of quotes you will find ever in your life. Call me at 816-674-3035 to get your bookmark of quotations.
Because when you need a break from reading that book, you just
read the bookmark.
Yeah, open the bookmark.
Yeah. And so we were talking about classical guitar technique on that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And we were talking about Andrew Segovia, who was the first classical guitar personality to upgrade classical guitar from playing in the bars and the streets up to Carnegie Hall.
And we were talking about Segovia, and then in walks your dad, who has an experience with him.
Yeah. He studied with Andre Segovia, and brilliant classical guitarist. My dad, and we played about some classical guitar on that episode. All these episodes are on Spotify, YouTube,
all the major podcasts.
Check them out. Go on Spotify, do a recap, do a binge watch, and like disappear for 2 days watching all this content.
Put it on play while you're working on your therapy projects.
Exactly. Yeah, no, this is a resource. While you're working on, put your headphones on and listen to the Property Therapy shows. I guarantee you'll be inspired and motivated. So we had my father and talked about his faith orientation ministry and the classical guitar. And then we had an episode on the financial planner, Lenny Cascio. And we talked about the flowback. We talked about the flowback benefit from taking care of property. In this case, the property involved was payment streams or money, which is a type of intangible property, and accounts and whatnot, and how that flowbacks and benefits.
And you've worked hard enough all your life and get your finances together. There's actually a process of financial planning that needs to happen so you can make the most of it for your later years.
So you have a financial benefit that comes back to you. You have talent harbors, and when you have property, it can help you realize your talents. And we also talked about that with Nick Marshall about your talent for guitar. If you didn't have a guitar, you couldn't have if you didn't have a guitar, you'd never be a guitarist, right?
Awful hard to play without one.
Or even here, at the Heritage Center, until I had the Heritage Center, I never had was able to develop my talents for working on cars, putting in engines. And so that's one of the projects. We've ordered 2 engines for the Heritage Center for a Buick Rendezvous. It's coming from Maine, 3,500,000 miles on it. And then we ordered another engine from Massachusetts for a Honda Civic. And that one has 45,000 miles on it. So these are low mile engines. So give us a call if you need a car. We'll get you a car.
Because if you know what you're doing, you can keep that vehicle going longer.
Yeah. So
you don't have to keep it going forever, but keep it going so long that you get your money's worth out of it.
So we don't just talk here on the show or at the American Heritage Center that we do. It's the Word. We're talking the Word. We have the lecture here. The Heritage Center divided in half at the lecture and the laboratory, the tool laboratory. So right here where the show's recorded and where we have our live musical presentations in the movie theater here, that's on the lecture side, and the gift shop here, and the picture displays on the walls. And then we have the hands-on side, we have the commercial garage, and where we have property therapy on cars. And then we also have a picture frame shop where we're doing the Circle of Life system, where we take pictures. We have a matting system that we're developing right now. It's in a circle. And so when you're doing your property therapy projects, we want to see the process reborn. So we've done that. So we've talked about the Hispanic episode with the tribute. That was a very popular episode. And then we had Brent Catlett we did that episode was on
talking about building his dream is to have this coffee shop community center where he's going to use it for multiple purposes, but a lot of faith-based activities, but also be a money-generating part of his charity.
Right.
So it's going to be self-funding.
Right.
So it's he's got his land cleared off, and I'm still getting the updates on that, but hopefully in this next year we'll see that structure.
One of the fascinating things with Brent Catlett, we talked about on that, is circling around method of property acquisition, where he physically went around and like with in the Bible with the children of Israel, went around Jericho.
In the last 10 years, I've had one book given to me just at random, and it was the exact book that he was talking about.
The Circle of Life. Yeah.
Crazy.
This is there's no deja vu on that. God knew that you were the Property Therapy Show in your future, and that you were going to be, that's going to play an important role in the future. John, I know it is, that book. And in the book, it talks about praying while you're going around a property. And you get promptings when you do that. If you're physically involved, and then about like serving the Lord with all your heart, might, mind, and strength. So that's serving Him with your strength moving around physically. And then might, mind is you're praying and thinking about. So you're meditating while you're walking and praying. And then a physical element to it. involved. And so while Brent was doing this, he was praying and walking around, and he was getting promptings. And while he was doing that around the property, another property opened up right next to it. And if he hadn't have been doing that, he would never have prompted to something like that. Out of small and simple means, great things are brought to pass. And this is how it works. This show it's just so extraordinary. I mean, I can't think of a better thing that I could do with my life, because it captures all that I am. There's no other format that could, because it captures the legal element of the show, the contractor element, licensed general contractor, captures the musical element, professional musician, and that's what we are. That's what connection. One of the connections John and I had was the musical element. He was been on tour for 10 years with his band too.
Yeah, we're going to be doing some parodies here next year. As soon as I get the political situation settled, we can figure out who we want to make our parodies about. we don't know. We can't make them in advance because we don't know who we're going to be poking fun at. But we're going to try to get some. Probably over this winter time when we have some more indoor time, not so much outdoor projects going on, we'll get to hone our skills on in the recording studio with our instruments.
And call us at 816-674-3035. Send us a text message. Tell us how much you like the show. And in addition to the musical connection John and I have, we also had a real estate entrepreneurial connection as well.
And we spoke about on our rental property show.
And a property therapy connection too, of course.
It's hands-on.
Very hands-on, and this is a very American heritage, isn't it? Is go out there, go forth, young man, go west, young man, and build your house. Build your houses, and that's where we encourage people on the show to go out there and leave the big city group thinks. Go out there. There's tons of land in the United States, just vacant land. You get it for a song. Go build and dig yourself a well. There's wells cost $15,000 with a well rig. We dug one. Go dig yourself a well. You put yourself water anywhere you want to be, and then build yourself a house, cabin, whatever you want to do. There's house kits out there.
Yeah, those tiny houses or even little RVs. If you've got something you can live in while you're building something, that's the ultimate thing because you're right there on the property. You just pop your eyes open and get right to work because you got a little camper or even a tent. If you could, I've done that a lot of times in the property that I was working on. I would just have a little mattress or a sleeping bag or something just right there in the corner of whatever room I'd had finished, and I would just sleep there. And as soon as my eyes popped open the next day, I'd just get a little breakfast and right to work. I didn't even have to drive. Didn't have to fight traffic. It's awesome just to get up and throw that tool belt on and get to work.
Yeah, I can relate too.
So efficient.
And that's like and then that episode that we did about the rock park. The rock guy that cut rocks.
We're going to revisit that next year. Definitely, we'll do some more research into that because that's just an incredible story there.
He would saw rocks for 20, 30 years on his property, and he built a rock garden.
An immigrant from Latvia.
What was his name?
Ed Lee Scalman.
Yeah, we're
look him up on YouTube.
We'll do a tour. We'll go over there live and do a property therapy show. And I'm going to Mexico, and we're going to do some shows. Yeah, we're taking property therapy show tour on the road.
International,
and we're going to do property therapy from Mexico down south of the border. And so we're recapping all these amazing shows. It's just been an incredible year. So this
made some big steps.
Big steps with High Check, Dr. Nick, Pastor Steve, Claudia.
Yeah, go check out all these shows on our podcast or YouTube.
Yeah. Google Property Therapy Show. So it's been great having you with us, Mike Stallman. Are you there? You still there?
Here.
And thank you so much for bringing this.
For hanging out with us.
For hanging out with us and hanging in and giving us the
information
update for that valuable property therapy
interesting couple weeks
information. So
coming up in our future here.
We're going to close out the show singing "Auld Lang Syne," and so this is the New Year's. We wish you the Happy New Year. So let's go. Let's record it.
Property therapy forever.
Yeah. Okay, so John and I and Mike is on the phone. We're going to sing "Auld Lang Syne." So this is Happy New Year to all you beloved Property Therapy Show listeners. And we're going to put Mike on the telephone next to the microphone so he can sing along with us. Should all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should all acquaintance be forgot and days of Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang
God can never brought to mind should